In the spring of 1929, two buildings were racing toward the sky, and neither team knew how close they were. One was rising at 40 Wall Street, the other 12 blocks north at the corner of 42nd and Lexington. Both projects had one goal: to be the tallest structure on Earth. The man behind 40 Wall Street believed he had already won. His building was nearly finished. His height had been announced. The numbers were public. What he didn't know was that his competitor had hidden an entire floor inside the building and was waiting. New York in 1929 was a city rewriting its own skyline by the month. The Woolworth Building had held the record for the tallest building since 1913, 792 feet, a spire visible from Brooklyn. For 16 years, nothing had touched it. Then, almost simultaneously, two developers decided they would. One was H. Craig Severance. Severance was designing 40 Wall Street for a banking consortium that wanted a monument to financial power. The other was Walter Chrysler, an automobile manufacturer who was building something different, a corporate headquarters that would announce his name to the world. Both men understood that height was not just architecture, it was leverage, it was advertising, it was dominance made permanent in steel and stone. But what made the Chrysler Building different from every other tower in that race? And why did the decision made in a single afternoon change the record before anyone could respond? Walter Chrysler was an engineer who had risen through the railroads, rebuilt failing car companies, and understood systems the way other men understood contracts. When he commissioned William Van Allen to design his building, he gave him one instruction that overrode every other consideration. It had to be the tallest. The architect Van Allen had spent years working alongside Severance. They had been partners before becoming rivals. He understood exactly how the man thought. He knew that Severance would track every published number. And he knew that if the winning height was announced too early, it could simply be matched. So Van Allen did not announce it. He built the solution in secret, inside the building, concealed within the steel frame, invisible from the street. He called it the Vertex. The Chrysler Building rose through 1929 at roughly 4 floors per week, a pace that required precise coordination between the structural steel teams, the concrete pourers, and the curtain wall crews working simultaneously on different elevations. The building's distinctive Art Deco crown was not decorative afterthought. It was structural intention. Each of the 7 radiating arches above the 61st floor was designed to carry load, not just light. The stainless steel cladding, imported from Germany, was chosen because it would not rust, would not require painting, and would hold its sheen for generations. Every rivet in the crown section was set by hand. In 1929, there was no other way. The material itself posed a challenge. Nirosta steel, a chromium-nickel alloy, was harder than standard construction steel. The fabrication teams had to adjust their tools. Pieces that would have taken 2 days to cut using standard steel took 3. The crown was not assembled at street level and hoisted. It was built in sections floor by floor, with each segment tested for fit before the next was begun. The race had a specific problem. Height had to be declared before completion, for insurance, permitting, and public record. Once 40 Wall Street filed its final height of 927 feet, the number became known. Severance had added 2 feet to his original design, specifically to clear the Chrysler Building's last published figure. He believed he had won. Van Allen's answer was already assembled inside the building. The Vertex, a 185-foot stainless steel spire, had been fabricated in 4 separate sections and stored within the dome at the 65th floor. No one outside the construction team knew it existed. It had never appeared in the public plans. The plan worked like this. The dome had been built with a central opening at its crown, wide enough to pass each section through vertically from below. Once Severance filed his final height, Van Allen's crew would thread the first section up through that opening, bolt it from the inside to the steel frame, then hoist the second section up through the same hole and rivet it to the first, then the third, then the fourth. On October 23, 1929, the spire was assembled in the open air, 925 feet above Lexington Avenue, with no external scaffolding. The entire process took 90 minutes, start to finish. Van Allen watched from the street below. No press, no cameras, no announcement. The Chrysler Building now stood at 1,046 feet, 119 feet taller than 40 Wall Street, which had filed its record claim 4 days earlier. Severance had no time to respond. By the time the news reached him, the steel was already cold. The spire solved the height problem, but the building's engineering contained a second layer of precision that is rarely discussed. The Chrysler Building's lobby, clad in African marble, Moroccan onyx and amber-tinted glass, was designed as a working demonstration of the building's own systems. The elevator doors were fabricated from individual inlaid wood veneers, no two panels identical. Each was cut from a single log, Egyptian lotus wood, Japanese ash, American walnut, and mirrored across the grain so the pattern would repeat precisely at the seam. This was not decorative excess. It was a proof of capability. Chrysler wanted every person who walked through the lobby to understand, before reaching the elevator, that the building had been built to a standard that most structures could not reach. The difference between the Chrysler Building and a standard commercial tower of 1929 can only be noticed over time. The stainless steel crown has never been repainted. It has never been stripped and refinished. It requires periodic inspection and minor maintenance. But the material itself has not degraded. Towers built in the same era with conventional steel cladding were refinished within 20 years. Then again, then again. The Nirosta steel surface was not a luxury decision. It was a durability calculation. Van Allen understood that the building would be seen from a distance, in all weather, for generations. The question was not what it would look like at completion. The question was what it would look like in 1970, in 2000, today. A building designed to be seen must be designed to last being seen. The race between Severance and Van Allen was not primarily about architecture. It was about the right to represent an era. In 1929, height was the only metric that mattered in American commercial culture. To build the tallest structure was to claim, in permanent form, that your industry, your company, your name, was the defining force of the moment. By 1931, the Chrysler Building had already lost the record. The Empire State Building surpassed it by more than 200 feet. The race that had consumed 2 years and 2 fortunes was over within 12 months of the Vertex's installation. These systems shaped the New York skyline. If you'd like to see more of them preserved, consider subscribing. And tell us, which forgotten race, rivalry or building should we document next?